All right, here we are. Hey guys, this is the Excel to Monday handshake challenge. We're going to do this in two parts. The first part is going to be webhooks, and then the second part is going to be an API call. You could almost say there's a third part, which would be to actually create an app, which would be React.javascript. But we're not going to worry about that part for right now. We can get a lot done with just these first two parts. And right now we're going to focus on the webhooks. And then secondly would be the API call. With the webhooks, we're going to use make.com. And so basically we're going to go from monday.com. We're going to send a webhook to make.com. And then from make.com, we're going to send information to Excel. And we are going to add some information to an Excel spreadsheet using this process, this flow. The webhooks are going to be outgoing traffic only. Only as far as I know, and I think only. So we can send information from Monday to Excel using webhooks, but the big challenge here is to use an API call to get information from Excel back to Monday. Some of that'll be in part 2, and then it's up to you to finish it all off. Get a big, shiny nickel for a prize if you can be the first one. So for the API call, we're going to use GraphQL, which is basically quite a simple SQL syntax or query syntax. I'm going to demonstrate it. We'll say we have like a file called query.graphql. So that'll be our GraphQL syntax. We're going to pump that into Python, and then from Python, we're going to update a status on monday.com. So we'll actually make changes to monday.com this way. But there's an extra step in here, which would actually be to generate that whole request and that whole process starting in Excel. I'm not going to plug in that one for you. That's up to you. But I will demonstrate, first of all, right now for part 1, this basic handshake between Monday, Make, and Excel using the webhooks. And then in part 2, we'll demonstrate the API call using Python and the GraphQL syntax. GraphQL querying syntax. That'll do it. And that one can take incoming traffic, which means that we can actually make updates, which are called mutations. In this particular GraphQL syntax, they call it a mutation. Post, right? Update. Okay. So there's a place where everyone gets stuck, or where people commonly will get stuck trying to make these webhooks. You can use them within monday.com pretty freely, but once you try to go out to another place, you might run into some problems. I'm going to show you how to take care of that right now. So for my workspace, I've got 3 tabs open. I've got one of my projects open on Monday. I've got make.com. This is just make.com. I deleted everything. You get 1,000 operations per month. I've used about 100 of them so far. After that, you have to start paying. And I've got this Excel spreadsheet open. But I don't have any scenarios set up in make.com. I don't have any webhooks. I deleted them all so I can show you from scratch. Within Monday, I've got these different workspaces. Got a processes workspace, a cleaning workspace, and an event workspace. We'll just use this mingle event project for demonstrating the basic webhook handshake. And there's a mini challenge in here. It's actually a bit of a challenge, and it's actually called a challenge. But that's not the real challenge. The real challenge is later down the road if you can use the API to send information from Excel into monday.com. I'm not doing that one for you. That's up to you. Right now we're going to do the smaller challenge, but it's also quite a challenge. Monday.com, in order to authenticate this webhook, we're going to click on automate here. See that automate right there? Monday.com wants us to authenticate using a challenge. We're going to instead of adding an automation here, we're going to do templates, search for webhooks. It's this purple looking thing, webhooks. I could just use this one. That's actually the one I'm looking for, but just to demonstrate, there are all these other webhook type associated actions. When a sub item is created, when an item changes, when an item moves to a group. Anyway, I'm just going to do the status. Okay, here we are. This is the challenge. This is the challenge right here. So the challenge is that we got to get this thing communicating with make.com. And it's literally going to send a challenge, and it wants us to send it back. So we got to send back the challenge using a webhook. So I'm going to create a new scenario. Basically have almost essentially an empty make.com account here. Webhooks, custom mail hook. No, that's not what I want. I want a custom webhook. And then I'm additionally going to use a webhook response. Let's start with this custom webhook. Create a webhook. Got to give it a name. This is going to be webhook for Monday. That'll be good enough of a webhook name. We don't need to add an IP whitelist. You can do that for extra security. Okay, it has created a URL, which it's showing to us right there. And then we want to copy the address to the clipboard. Make is now listening for the data and will determine the data structure from the incoming data automatically. To initiate this, please send your data sample to the webhook address displayed above. So before we do anything else, we're going to paste that URL here and click connect. Now we're going to get this failed to communicate flag, but we've actually succeeded. As you can see, successfully determined. Make has now determined the data structure that's incoming, and we'll say OK. Now we want to add another module. This is going to be another webhooks module, and this is going to be the response. Now what's going to happen is Monday's going to send us a challenge, and we have to respond in an exact specific way with JSON. That means open curly bracket, open quote, and we're actually going to type out the word challenge, close quote, colon, open quote, and then we click on this red thing and it'll auto-populate over there, close quote, close curly bracket. I'm going to zoom in so you can take a look at that. Open curly bracket, open quote, challenge, close quote, colon, open quote, and then the red or the raw challenge, and then close quote and close curly bracket. And so what that's going to do is it's going to receive this challenge and it's going to respond and it's going to say the challenge is, and then it's going to send the challenge back. And the challenge is just going to be basically a random string. Now I'm going to demonstrate something that happens sometimes where you'll get another failure, and why not to worry about that, okay? All right, let's connect. It should work. Failed to communicate. So you'll basically run into that error a lot of times before you get it to successfully work, and then eventually you will be successful. So one thing we got to do is we got to turn on this webhook and get it listening. We could also schedule it to run at certain times or have a more automatic environment. When we get it all up to production ready and people using it, then we want it up all the time maybe, or most of the time. Right now we're just testing it. We're just going to run it once. Now it's listening. So before it was not listening and therefore it did not work. Now it's listening. Now let's try again. And now we can see that we did not get the failure flag, and we got, instead, we're just kind of filling out our automation plan. So when the status column changes to, and we're just going to do anything, send a webhook. Okay. So we have just completed the mini challenge, and we've got a webhook on our board. We also had a built-in automation, pretty standard on any project that you create. When status changes to done, set completion date to current date. That of course makes sense. You can turn it off if you want. You're also now going to have, there's a connections tab up here, and you'll see that this webhook connection is now one of our live connections, and we have 2 board automations. All right, so now we need to make some changes here on make.com. We had basically an event listener and then an auto response. All we needed that auto response for is to satisfy the challenge. We've already satisfied the mini challenge. We can go ahead and delete that module, and now we'll put in something else. In this case, what I'm looking to do is to do some automation with Excel. So I type into the search bar Excel, show more. What I want to do is add a row. Search workbooks, download a workbook, list worksheets, list rows, add a worksheet row. You could also update or delete. List tables, all these different, or make an API call. At any rate, we're trying to just add a table row. Okay. Oh, there's a step you're going to have to do here to connect to your, basically authenticate to Microsoft 365. This one is easy. You don't have to type in challenge or curly brackets or anything like that. Once you get that connection set up, you'll choose select from the list, My Drive, and then click here to choose the file. Just got a few random, this is the one, date test right there. Okay, then we have to choose which sheet, which is normally going to say sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, although you may have actually gone to the extent of naming your sheet as I have, data. Table. No, what table? What's this? What are you? Try again. Delete. Try again. So add a worksheet row. That's what we want. Add a row. Okay, yeah. Date test. That's the one I set up. Whichever one you set up to test your stuff out. Worksheet, data. There we go. Type of values. We can use formulas. In this case, I'm just going to send some values over. It's already figured out what the names of my columns are. So I'm just going to put in a recognizable, maybe Roger 555. And for the quantity, 33333. There. Okay, so we're trying to add that information to our Excel spreadsheet. Okay. Interesting thing I'll show you here where it says explain flow, where there's an airplane. We'll diagram a token moving through your flow. That's good to remember in terms of what is a token for process management. That is what a token looks like right there. Okay, so now I've got this webhook set up. Let's call it Excel add row. Okay. So that thing's ready to go, but it's not listening. Once again, if I go and try to test it out, it's not going to work yet because I need to activate the make scenario by running it. Date test over here, this is where we want to add a row below what I've already got there. I've got up to H so far. So I'm going to run it once. So now it's going to sit there and listen. It's just waiting for data, waiting for data. Okay. So once I change just any of these to anything different, any of these status to anything different, it should have gone through. Looks like it did something. Let's see here. There it is. Roger 555 33333. Okay, let's just test it out again. Stuck. Let's see if we can watch it go. Oh, no, I didn't run it yet. Uh-oh. Okay, so now we have a backlog. Unprocessed data in webhook queue. You can run the scenario with the existing data or wait for more data. Let's just use the existing data. So it's already going to run. There you can see it running. So it should have sent another update there. So again, we can schedule this to go constantly, but right now for testing, we just run it once at a time. I'm going to go in and change the data that's getting added onto here so we can see something different go through. So instead of Roger 555, it's going to be volleyball 444. Okay. We got to run it so it's listening. Now it's listening. It's waiting to see if something happens. As soon as I change any of these status indicators, it's going through, it's doing it, it's updating. And now we see volleyball 444 here. Again, it's not listening until I tell it to listen. Now it's listening. Just change one of these. Let's go and see if it updates. There it goes. You see that pop up down there? Okay. So that is our basic webhook handshake. And what we mean by a handshake is that we've gotten the two apps to communicate to one another. Now from there, we're going to want to customize it and make it do all these specific things that are specific to our team and our organization. But what I'm demonstrating here today is just to get the essential components of it put together. Probably the most difficult part of it is getting that challenge handshake. Here, I'm going to demonstrate again just to make sure that it's just because it's easy to forget. So I'm going to create another scenario. New scenario, save, go back. There we go. So there's my one scenario. I want to create a new scenario. Create a new scenario. It's going to be a webhook. Custom, not the mail hook. We don't want the mail hook. We want a webhook. We're going to call it, test number 2. Okay. Oh, what have I done here? Get rid of this thing. Go away. Whatever. Okay, we're going to create a new webhook. Give it a name. You don't have to create a bunch of new webhooks if you're just doing the same thing on the same sheet, but I'm going to create a new one. This will be not secret handshake. Not very secret, I guess. Not very secret handshake. IP restrictions are not necessary. That's an advanced security feature. There's my new URL. Copy it to the clipboard. Now it's listening. It's waiting. Okay. So now I'm going to create a new automation here on the Mingle event. I'm not going to click Add Automation. I'm going to go to Templates. Search for webhooks. So let's try a different one. When a new update is posted, when a new item is created, a new item is moved, when a column changes. Let's say when an item is created. Okay. So it's saying, oh, we can just use that other webhook. No, we're going to make another one. I just want to demonstrate this challenge. This is the hardest part right here. So now I'm going to paste that new URL that I just got. I'm going to say connect, and it's going to fail. But it succeeded over here on make.com. Got the not very secret handshake is begun. We'll say OK. I want to create, I think I can right click this and delete it. There we go. That was it. So then we want to add another module over here. It's going to be a webhook. It's going to be a webhook response. Status doesn't matter. Well, as long as it's higher than 100. And then for the body, we're going to put open quote, challenge. Shall I zoom in? Zoom in. There we go. Open quote, challenge, close quote. Oh, wait, we need the curly brackets. Open curly bracket, open quote, challenge, close quote, colon, open quote. And then we grab the built-in one, the raw challenge, and then close quote, close curly bracket. If you missed something along the way, you don't have to do it all in that order. You can get it over there afterwards, you know. I think you can figure all this out, but the important thing is it has to be encapsulated in quotation marks. Oh, and zooming out, I have lost my challenge. Challenge. Dun, 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 dun. We need the curly brackets. There we go. Like that, and we say OK. And then a common error, common mistake, or not a big deal, common thing that you don't need to worry about is what? Wait, what? Why didn't it work? Oh, wait, we got to turn it on, get it running. Okay, now it's listening. Now it's listening and it's ready to respond with the challenge. Okay, let's connect. And there. Now it is good to go, and there's no variables to choose here. I don't think variable is the right word. There's no drop downs to select from there. It's just when an item is created, send a webhook. Okay. So we no longer need the challenge response. We've already got that. We can delete that module. We'll add another module. I could list tables instead, but right now for what I'm trying to do, it's just going to work easiest to... Oh, should we update a row instead of adding a row? That might be kind of hairy. I'm going to leave that as extra credit for you guys. For right now, I'm just going to add a row. I could update other Excel worksheets, workbooks, other worksheets in other Excel workbooks. I'm just sending in values right now. It gives you some explanations there of how to use the formulas. Pretty sure you can figure that stuff out. Trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. Okay, so now the skew is going to be George, and the quantity will be 45. Oh, 46. I guess it's going to be 46 because my fingers have spoken. Okay, so it's not running yet. We got to run once. Now it's listening. Now it's waiting. That's all good. Let's just check date test. Yep, volleyball is the last one on there right now. So now I'm going to add a task. Let's put it down here at the end. Add a task. Launch party. Launch party. Okay, and enter. And the launch party has been added. Looks like it went through and did something there. Let's see if it... Yep, it added George 46 here to our Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so that's part one. I'm going to give you a quick introduction to part two here, and then I'm going to end this transmission and we'll do part two in a separate live stream. So basically, we're done with this guy. Put him over here. We're done with this guy. Oh, cancel save. Okay. So for part two, where we're going to go to find that stuff is the Developer Center, which if you can't find the Developer Center, you know, poke around, look it up on Google. But then where that's going to be is over here in the top right corner where we see our company, or it might be a Monday.com logo or a company logo here, and then developers. Monday.labs might help you get there. That's related. If for whatever reason on your company's plan, you're not able to get into this API playground, then you might have to talk to the dude or the guy or the gal or your friend or whatever they go by. The admin. That's what we call them, the admin. But basically, you're going to try to get into this API playground. You're going to get this API token that you're going to use, and then you can run these queries in the playground area, and then that'll get you lined up to work on the next stage of saying, okay, can I run these queries just like I can here in the playground, but can I do them from the command line, or can I do them from my own web page, or from the company web page, or from what have you? Part three is setting up a React.js app, which is a Monday app in the React.js framework, and we're not going to get into that. So that is part one, and then for part two, we will continue working from within the Dev Center. Okay, so that's the Excel to Monday Handshake Challenge, part one. Webhooks using make.com. Outgoing traffic, which comes from Monday to Make, and then in our case, we did it to Excel. And then for part two, we'll be doing an API call using GraphQL. And this will create incoming traffic, or in other words, updates or mutations, in which we will go and we will post status updates from essentially from the command line, and they will pop up on Monday.com. So we will see you again in part two.